Millions of independent contractors and informal workers are not eligible for maternity and paternal benefits under South Africa's labor regulations. Now, pregnant women who operate small enterprises or serve food in townships may lose their only source of income, leaving them without a safety net to survive during leave. Previously, the South African Law Reform Commission had recommended legal under the Maternal Support Grant. Over 40% of South Africa's 1.9 million self-employed people are women. Let's get more insights now with Julie Mentor, who is the project lead for Embrace Movement for Mothers. Good morning, Julie. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning, Masachaba. Thanks for having me on.
Now, firstly, if you can start by telling us more about the Embrace Movement for Mothers and your role in particular.
Sure. So Embrace is a movement for mothers where we seek to really value the role of mothers in society and understand their role politically, socially, economically. And ultimately, if I to sum up our vision in one sentence, we're trying to work to make South Africa the best place to become a mom and to be a mom. So it's quite an ambitious goal. We're looking at all the sort of challenges that mothers experience in society and advocating for solutions that will address those challenges whilst understanding the inherent worth that mothers have in our society, because without mothers we would not have our society and we would not be able to function like we're able to do.
A very ambitious goal indeed, but we love it. What inspired you to become involved in advocating for maternal support in South Africa's informal economy?
Sure. So, I mean, I think being a mum myself, I understand just how much work, both the visible and invisible work, that motherhood is. Motherhood is work, and I think we don't really understand as a society, or we don't really value, should I say, care work as we should. And so understanding the kind of social protection that we could have on offer for women, and then knowing that we don't, that there are some real gaps. You know, we have two ways in South Africa to support people who need social assistance. We have social protection in the form of social grants, and we have social insurance in the form of the Unemployment Insurance Fund. And currently, women in the informal sector fall through the gaps because they are not eligible to receive UIF, since they are not employed, they are self-employed, and social protection through grants like the Child Support Grant only come after the child is born, and sometimes there are challenges in getting that grant, to be able to take up that grant. And so during a time when you have such vulnerability, when you are pregnant and in the early postpartum phase, there are just thousands and thousands and thousands of women who have no social protection in that time, and we're wanting to address that through one mechanism that has been tabled by the Department of Social Development since 2012. So it's not even a new policy.
Yeah, before we talk about the policy, if you could just paint a picture of the current situation, how widespread is the issue of pregnant women in the informal economy lacking maternity protections? What are you hearing directly from women in these situations?
Yeah. So again, to the point that you mentioned in your introduction, you know, we have about 1.9 million people in the informal economy, and about 40% of those are women. We know in South Africa about 1 million, we have a fairly stable birth rate, about 1 million babies are born every year. So it's 1 million women coming into a journey of motherhood, and a large percentage of those are women in the informal economy. Having spoken to these women through our work at Embrace, we know that there are so many costs associated with pregnancy and with early motherhood that I think as a society, we don't really grasp. You know, we tell that we have very good public health messaging that you need to attend when you're pregnant, you need to attend your antenatal appointments. You know, that takes transport money to do that, and often a day away from the work that you're doing in order to wait in a queue to receive the health services that you require. There are other costs like nutrition. It is, you know, there's this whole, we understand that in pregnancy you need to eat well, but food is expensive, and in order to continue to feed yourself and your family, you need to be able to have have money. Other things that we don't often think about, like childcare costs, for the mother who is either needing to return to work after having her baby. We know many women don't have the luxury of maternity protection. They don't have the luxury of having paid time off to be with their baby. So they are returning to work 1 week, 2 weeks postpartum when their bodies and their mental health is just not ready for that. Their babies aren't ready for that. So women are under incredible stress at a time when, again, they are increasingly vulnerable during the pregnancy journey, during the postpartum journey. And as a society, we need to be doing better to
Right.
provide social protection.
And Julie, you work with these mothers directly. What are the long-term consequences you're seeing when women cannot access proper maternity support?
Sure, there are many. I mean, so physically, we know, again, if you're unable to meet the nutritional needs of your own body and your unborn baby's body during pregnancy, you're more likely to have a baby who has a low birth weight, and potentially that could, poor nutrition in pregnancy and poor nutrition in the first 1,000 days of life can lead to a condition known as stunting, nutritional stunting. We also know that it can lead to other kind of health complications like preterm labor. We know that it can put an incredible strain on a mother's mental health, and postnatal depression is something that women really struggle with in this country. So the kind of effects of being in a financially precarious position. I mean, one of the other things we don't talk about is the fact that pregnancy for women who are at risk of gender-based violence, and something to talk about in Women's Month, pregnancy is one of those factors that can increase your risk of experiencing gender-based violence for a host of social reasons. So it's a time, again, when women are really struggling, and the impacts can be long-standing, have real health social impacts for the short term and the long term. And these are really felt by mothers, and we need to be addressing that through a simple lifeline like maternal support.
Yes, which leads me to my next point. Let's talk about the Maternal Support Grant, what it would actually mean for these women.
So the most simple way to understand the Maternal Support Grant is that it is a cash-based grant equivalent to the Child Support Grant, which is currently sitting at 560 Rand a month. And it will be issued to women on confirmation of their pregnancy as they enter the second trimester of their pregnancy, and they would receive it every month until their child is 3 months postpartum, and then it would convert to the Child Support Grant, and so it would no longer be the Maternal Support Grant, but if families are continued to be eligible, because this is a means-tested grant, then it would convert to the Child Support Grant, which is really important because currently, I think I mentioned earlier, we have a real challenge with people registering for that grant, again, because you have to do a bunch of paperwork, you require a birth certificate when you are freshly postpartum, and so we know that we don't have as great uptake of the Child Support Grant in the first year, and the Child Support Grant in doing that.
And now this isn't a new idea. It's been discussed for over a decade. Why do you think there's been such resistance or delay? Very briefly.
Yeah, I think we are just ultimately lacking political will for it to happen. We have the health benefits case. We know the research around it is sound. It's not something that's new. There are 27 other countries similar to ours who offer this kind of support and have shown brilliant results. And so ultimately, we're looking for solid political will. We need government to say, it's been on the table, there's a good case for us, let's make it happen. And we're just lacking that at the moment.
Now, if you could speak directly to government officials watching today, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to stick to what they have promised. As I said, this is a grant tabled by the Department of Social Development back in 2012. It's been on their annual performance plan. And I would say mothers need this money. We know mothers will use this money as it is intended for themselves and for their families. It's a no-brainer. And can we please see it happen, this year?
So before I let you go, Julie, what's next for the Embrace movement? Where can people find out more about your work?
Well, the best place to go is either to our social media platforms. We're Embrace ZA. If you look for Embrace the Movement for Mothers, you'll find us. Or you can go to our website, embrace.org.za. We keep you up to date with all of the kind of advocacy campaigns and work that we're doing on the ground.
Fantastic. Julie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me on.
That was Julie Mentor, who is the project lead for Embrace.